Hi, I'm Justin, and today I'm going to show you how I built this awesome Murphy bed with built-in storage. Hope you enjoy. So this is actually not the first Murphy bed that I've built. I've actually built 3 in total so far. The first one that I did on this channel was a DIY Murphy bed with inexpensive hardware. So that was not using one of the pre-made kits that you can buy online. That was using a couple of bolt swivels and just building it all myself. I followed another YouTube video. I'll link that video in the description below if you want to check it out. This one's actually using a Create-A-Bed Murphy bed kit. So it just comes with all the hardware and the instructions to build the Murphy bed. So it does come with a piece list that it wants you to cut out. So it gives you a full cut list on all the different pieces that are needed for the Murphy bed itself. So that's what you see me doing here is I am cutting out all the different pieces that are needed for the Murphy bed. What I did that's unique for this is I'm actually going to be building a whole wall out of this for the room that it's going into. So I'm going to be adding a couple of bookshelves and overhead storage along with some base cabinets and a countertop so that it's a full pretty much like storage wall included with the Murphy bed. So I'll show you that here, but first I had to build the Murphy bed itself. One of the benefits to using one of the kits that you can buy online that includes all the hardware is that it does come with the clear instructions. This isn't a sponsored video or anything like that. The Create-A-Bed I purchased off of Amazon myself with my own money. I'll include an affiliate link in the description below if you are interested in purchasing to follow those directions. But it is really nice to have, especially if you don't have a whole lot of building experience. This being my third Murphy bed, I could do it without the instructions, but I really enjoy having the cut list and just making it that much easier on myself. I think I was able to build the bed itself in a day, cutting out all the pieces and dry fitting all the parts in a day, which was awesome because then I could really focus on the customization that I wanted to do to fit the room that I'm installing it in. If you're not familiar with what I'm doing here, this is called edge banding. It is just for the exposed edges of plywood to make them a bit nicer if you are planning to stain or paint any exposed edges so you don't just see the layers of plywood. It is really nice. It really does take your projects up to that next level. In the kit, it does say to use this as well. So I am covering all the edges that you will see from the outside with edge banding, whether they are getting stained or painted on the finished product. Now that all the pieces have been cut, I am assembling the bed frame. So this is the bottom support for the queen mattress that will be going into the Murphy bed. It is a really simple frame once it's all together. At first it looks like it's not going to be enough to support it, but you do end up attaching 3/4 inch plywood sheets to the outside, and that's plenty strong to hold the bed in place. Another point on edge banding, it is really nice to use to cover those exposed edges. You do just iron on a piece of thin veneer that is about 3/4 inch. It's a little bit bigger than 3/4 inch, so you can trim it to the size of your piece. I used a razor blade, but you can use a tool that they sell that makes it much easier. Once the bed box was completely assembled, it was time to move on to the other pieces. There isn't a whole lot of pieces to the main build. You have the bed box, you have the 2 sidewalls, and then you have the top. So this is the top piece. It's kind of a nice finished decorative piece, but this is what holds the bed side panels together, along with the headboard, which is mounted right above the bed box. One of the additional features that I did add to this piece in particular is I did want an overhead reading light. So I used I believe 4-inch puck light that would normally mount into like a can ceiling vent. I put that in the center of the top so it would shine down on the bed when it was open, and I was actually able to install a light switch right on the side of the Murphy bed itself. And once all the pieces were put together, I did dry fit the entire assembly to make sure that it functioned properly before painting and installing in place. One thing that is nice about building it yourself is that it is completely customizable. You can add whatever trim that you want that kind of fits your aesthetic and would look good in your room. I went for a kind of a board and batten look on the front of the bed. So I'm going to be attaching this to the bottom of the bed box, the part that looks like the wall, to kind of look like it's cabinetry on the wall. So I put some fake handles in there as well. But this part is actually going to be stained, and then the rest of the bookshelf is going to be painted to give us a nice contrast look. Unfortunately, I did not show the staining and painting process of this, but this is the final assembly of the Murphy bed itself. I'm going to be installing this in place before I actually build the rest of it out. This is so I can get exact measurements of my room and so that I can build the rest of the bookshelf to be an exact fit for where I want the Murphy bed to go. One of the deviations I did from the plan is they ask for either a metal or a wood piece to go between the legs that's 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch. I just used a 1x2 piece just because I thought it was a little bit more substantial. It doesn't do the supporting, the legs do the supporting, but it does connect the 2 pieces, and I just thought the 3/4 inch was too floppy. So that's one modification I did to the bed itself. A benefit for dry fitting all the pieces before they are finished is it makes assembly go by so much faster. All the pieces have already gone together once, you figure out all the flaws, and when it is time to assemble everything for the final install, it goes by super smooth. Once it was completely assembled and installed, of course I had to test it out, make sure everything still worked. Now that the finished Murphy bed is in place, I can start with the customization of the rest of the storage bookshelf. I did go with a prefab cabinet for the base cabinets just to make it a little easier on myself. They weren't super expensive. I just purchased them from a big box store and I painted them myself. I moved on to assembling a bookcase. This is going to go to the right of the Murphy bed. It's just a basic bookcase that I put together using pocket screws and just screwing from the outside because these are going to be covered by trim and the exterior walls, so you're not going to see any of the pieces that aren't painted. I pre-painted all the pieces that are going to be visible just to make it easier on myself later on. One of the parts that I did not cover is the countertop for the base cabinets. These are actually from the previous big crafting desk that my wife and I built a few years ago. We actually took that down. You can see part of it there in the video with the storage shelves from IKEA. It was just huge and it kind of didn't fit what we wanted to use this room for anymore, but I still wanted to use pieces of it, so I cut those down to make them into the countertops for the cabinets. For the bookshelf and the upper head storage, I just built them in separate pieces so that they were easier to install and I could just throw them up on there, and then I would cover them in trim later. Once the upper cabinets and the bookshelf were in place and secured to the wall, I was able to follow up with just some basic trim around the edges to make it look like one solid piece. Another feature I did want to add was bookshelf lighting, so I did take a LED strip and just mount them up above the trim of the bookshelf and the upper storage so that there would be some nice lighting for all the items on display. Now that the bed's installed, enjoy some before and after. So this is our crafting room before, and we after with the installation of the Murphy bed. It just gives us so much more utilization of this room. We did want to add another guest bed for when people come visit, because the room upstairs that we were previously using, we are turning into a nursery for our son. So we hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll include all the links of the products that I used in this video and links to previous Murphy bed videos that I've done before. I hope you enjoyed.